What's up everybody, it's Roger here from What's On at disneyplus.com. A quick news update for you guys on Disney buying out the remaining stake of Hulu from Comcast. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So finally, after years, it has been confirmed that Disney is going to be buying out the remaining 33% of Hulu's stake from Comcast, and it's only going to be happening on the 1st of December of 2023. So let's go into a little bit of history on this and kind of set this up, because there's a lot of stuff to be going into today. So way back when Hulu was created, it was created by a number of different studios and a way of kind of combating against Netflix. So Disney had 30%, you also had Comcast had 30%, 20th Century Fox had 30%, and AOL Time Warner had 10%. So when Disney purchased 20th Century Fox in 2019, they then got that extra 30%. That took them up to 60%. AOL was like, bye, and they sold their 10% to Comcast and Disney, putting it up to 66% for Disney, 33% of it went to Comcast. Now, they made a deal at the time between the two companies that Disney would now have operational control over Hulu. They would be running it. And therefore, they put a deal in place that called a put-call deal. And in 2024, that deal could be activated. And that deal essentially meant that Disney were going to be forced into buying out Comcast's stake. Either Comcast could put in the call or Disney could, and therefore basically Disney were going to be able to get full control over it. At the time, they made an agreement that it was valued at $27.5 billion, and that would be like the minimum that it would be worth. However, Comcast's stake could be reduced down to a minimum of 21% if they didn't continue to invest in Hulu. And by the sounds of it, they haven't been doing that. So this is a little bit where it gets a little bit complicated. So this has been something that's been rolling on for years, and it's why Disney Plus in the United States has never really been able to fully grow, because it had this big green monster behind them, and therefore they had to keep splitting up their content and doing stuff. Internationally, Disney ended up adding in the Star Hub into Disney Plus, bringing in all the Hulu originals like Dope Sick, Pam and Tommy, things like that, all ended up being put into Disney Plus around the world, and we've been having that for years. And it's been a huge success. The churn rate has been massively reduced, engagement is up, and generally it has just been really successful. Now Disney are going to be kind of wanting to continue this in the future, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. So back in September, Disney and Comcast revealed that they'd actually agreed to end this deal a little bit earlier, pulling it forward by just 2 months. So on November the 1st, either company could put in the call. Now, at the time, it then was also stated that the valuation of Hulu would be taking place on the 30th of September. So that would be the date of which the value of Hulu would be marked. Anything after that date would have no bearing on the value of Hulu going forward. It meant that both companies went off and hired some banks to do their individual assessments of the valuation. The two of them will then come together with their valuations. If it's within 10%, they'll then kind of meet in the middle. If they're very far apart, a third party will come in and do a valuation, and then that will be it. So that was that. So Disney has confirmed that Comcast has put in the call, and therefore Disney is now required to buy out Comcast's stake. So under the terms of the put-call agreement, by December the 1st, Disney expects it will pay NBC Universal Comcast approximately $8.61 billion, representing the percentage of their $27.5 billion guaranteed floor value for Hulu that was set out when the companies entered into their agreement in 2019, minus the anticipated outlining capital call contributions payable by Universal to Disney. Under the appraisal process agreed by Disney and Comcast, Hulu's equity value will be assessed as of September the 30th, and if the value is ultimately determined to be greater than the guaranteed floor price, Disney will pay NBC Universal its percentage of the difference between the equity fair value and also the guaranteed floor value. With the timing of the appraisal process is uncertain, they anticipate that it will be completed by 2024. So that is the key thing here. So they've agreed to pay them the guaranteed floor value, and that means they then basically get Hulu. And then while all the negotiations are going on with the valuation, they're going to come together for a number. Now, obviously Comcast want this number to be as high as possible. Disney wanted to be as close to that $27.5 billion. But it's important to note that Disney put in there about the idea that sort of Comcast share could be reduced. So this is the interesting thing, because say they valued Hulu at 45 billion, that would mean that, you know, they'd have to pay them maybe 15 billion. So that's a lot more than the 8+ billion that they're going to pay. But then they're going to take off the percentage that they've been dropping off by not investing in Hulu. You can pretty much see that Universal has not been putting in a lot of the originals. They've had some DreamWorks stuff, but that's about it. There's been nothing in there. They've not been paying towards like the marketing or just keeping the business going. That's been all on Disney, and that's going to reduce that value down a little bit. So very interesting to see how this is going to work. It's probably going to take months to kind of work out. Next week, we're going to be having an investors quarterly call where I suspect we're going to get a lot more updates on this from Disney. They've been very quiet on it, but now we know it's going to be happening. And obviously as well, that 8+ billion, it could be much higher than that. I mean, it could actually even be a little bit less. I mean, if they value it like less than 27, or if they value it at that and then they take off the percentage, it could be lower then. So therefore, technically, they might get a little bit of a refund, but I don't think that's probably going to happen. I think the value of Hulu is very interesting. Obviously, Comcast are putting out how much they think it's worth, and they want it to be worth more. And the idea that, well, if they put it out on the open market, it would be a unique thing and it would get lots of value and lots of people would be after it. However, the counter argument is if you take Hulu and you take away the sort of the Disney version of it, and you take away all of the content from FX, all of the stuff from ABC, all of the National Geographic stuff, most of the Hulu originals that are made by their studios, you take away the connections with ESPN and all the rest of it, there isn't a lot left. And that's kind of, I think, going to be a key thing with the valuation is Hulu is only valuable to Disney. It isn't necessarily that much value to Hulu. But also there's some other things as well with this one. Comcast has been kind of putting in issues with Disney with the fact that they didn't launch Hulu internationally, and instead they went with Disney Plus, and kind of Comcast saying, well, you promised you would do Disney. Go, no, we didn't. Hence why they don't use the Hulu brand outside of the US. They have it in Japan, but that is a separate company completely, that they've made a little deal. So what does this all mean for like Disney Plus and Hulu and stuff moving forward? So by the looks of it, we are going to find out some proper details soon. Disney has said that they're planning on bringing Hulu content into Disney Plus by the end of the year. That would then tie up with this December line. This is known as Project Hulk, hence the big green monster. And this is a combination of the platforms, and they've been working on this for years. This has been the big plan. Obviously, internationally, this has already happened. You know, we already have most of the Hulu content in at Disney Plus. There's a lot of licensed stuff that's on Hulu that might not necessarily come over. So when they bring this stuff into Disney Plus, you're going to have to probably have a Hulu subscription to have access to it. And you're going to see, I would imagine, like all the 20th Century Studios stuff, the FX things, all the stuff made by Disney should be in there. The stuff that's pretty much on Disney Plus around the world already. Things that are licensed might be a little bit more tricky. You know, if there's an NBC show, maybe like the WWE, maybe other stuff, that's not going to be in there. The things that are in Hulu that come from add-ons like Max and Stars, etc., are not going to be available. So there's that. What they're going to do with the live service, we don't really know. We don't really know the plan for how they're going to do this home merger situation, because eventually they're going to merge together, because it's going to allow them to offer one service with stuff for kids, stuff for adults, stuff for everyone. They have a combined platform. You're going to have more advertising so they can reach a larger audience, and they can really then in the US go after Netflix, but also more importantly, Disney Plus then will have much more variety. A lot of problems with Disney Plus has been that it's been so reliant on Marvel and Star Wars. But outside of the US, that isn't a problem. Just this month alone here in the UK, we're getting the FX series Murder at the End of the World. We're getting the new series Culprits. We're getting Welcome to Wrexham, The Kardashians. We're getting all these other stuff on there. You know, we're getting Quiz Lady and all these kind of things that are all on Hulu in the US. So therefore you get that combined package, and that's going to be much more, means that then they can save money on advertising, they can save money on creating less content, and just giving you a much better platform. So I suspect it's going to take a while for them to kind of merge the two systems together. A little bit like with Paramount Plus and Showtime. You know, it wasn't just done overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time of them running both platforms simultaneously. So what does this all mean for us internationally? Well, it doesn't really mean a huge amount in terms of the content we're getting. I mean, I would hope that when they eventually merge in the US, it means we get things at the same time, because it can be a little bit iffy with some of the release dates. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Star Hub gets rebranded to Hulu. That wouldn't be at all surprised. Now, the reason I think that even more so is if Disney does sell their Star India business and get rid of Hotstar and sell a whole load of Star channels in India, it would make sense for them to kind of move away from this Star brand, which I've hated since it was initially announced. It's very generic. It's very... bleh. What is it? So therefore, if they went completely with the idea of just using the Hulu brand, it'll be easier for them for promotion and stuff. You know, when they bring out a new series like Shogun or something like that, they can put that little Hulu logo on it, and therefore that fits for the whole world. It'll be a little bit easier for them, less competition and stuff within themselves. And I think also bringing in the Hulu hub into Disney Plus in the US would allow for people to kind of separate it, like subconsciously, that it's technically like not on there, like with, you know, like Mickey Mouse and stuff. But you know, every other streaming service has different stuff. You know, I think consolidation to have less apps, you know, and if you're paying out all of this, it will just make things a little bit easier. It's going to be a little bit bumpy. Hopefully we get all the information on this pretty soon. But this is a big step in terms of Disney finally being able to utilize its direct-to-consumer platform and use it. You know, it's why, for example, why they recently did the deal with Spectrum, why users are going to be able to get Disney Plus for free with it. There was no mention of Hulu. When Disney had been doing their big promotions for the 100th anniversary, they never mentioned Hulu. While I know in the US, Hulu is a big established brand and it does have some brand recognition, ultimately Disney is a much bigger brand, and they can use that Hulu brand as a kind of a way of bringing people along for it and keeping it in a kind of little separate little bubble. Disney Plus is going to go through some updates when all this kicks in, and yeah, we are going to see some consolidation. So that also might mean we might see some changes eventually down in Latin America with Star Plus when it will get sorted. There's going to be a lot of changes with all this, and it generally just means that they can push Disney Plus as the core platform and really kind of do what they're doing around the rest of the world. Because again, as I said, the Hulu situation is only in the US. I mean, there's a lot of money, you know, nearly $9 billion is a lot for a platform to essentially maybe be thinking, well, they're going to just close this down or get rid of it. That's not necessarily the case. It's a case of the value really is of bringing those people into Disney Plus and having a platform that is then profitable, because the advertising is going to be much higher for it, more people on it, and less people are going to churn away. Because if you can get all of that content in one place, you're going to feel much more value. When you put all of the Hulu and the Disney Plus content in one package, it is then much more comparable to Max and to Amazon and to Netflix. And yeah, so if you're going, well, I don't really watch anything but Marvel and Star Wars, and I don't watch the kids stuff, well, suddenly then you've got all this extra content. So it's going to be in there. Hopefully we get all the information pretty soon, but it's great to finally see all this coming together. I suspect that Comcast and Disney had worked out most of this stuff beforehand, and they just want to get this stuff done and get it moved on and get it over with, because it was going to be happening next year anyway. At least now they can get it done. Obviously Disney are under stress with finances, hence why I think they are looking to sell some of Star India, why they're looking to sell maybe some of their ABC networks in the US, some of their local ones that they have, and also even looking to sell some of ESPN, so they can kind of consolidate, get things going. They're going to be able to save a lot of money by merging the two platforms together. There probably might be some job cuts and stuff in that way, but also they can be less reliant on putting out as much on all their platforms across everything, because they've got it all in one place. Yeah, it's going to be a big news. It has been something I have been waiting for them to do for a long time, and I cannot wait until it's finally done. But it's great to see this big movement. And again, I think we'll be getting a lot more information on it pretty soon. Now we know that Disney have put out that announcement. Obviously, there's a lot of people as well, like pulling in on the fact that Disney might have to pay out more for it, and, you know, can they afford it and all this lot. But Disney have stated that they've got the money for it. They are selling off assets to also like cover off that bit as well. Yeah, it is an expensive thing. I do think that Bob Iger did end up kind of overpaying for 20th Century Fox when he did, and Comcast has been this thorn in their side, just putting up the price of everything they've been going for, but hopefully this will just kind of get rid of all of this and things can move on. But I'd love to know your thoughts on this entire Hulu situation. Let me know in the comments below. Go check us out over at what's on at disneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.